Tuesday, April 8th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, this year's sea ice season in the north. You're going to hear from some folks in Nain, their thoughts on climate change and what unpredictable sea ice means in Inuit communities, and from the folks at SmartICE, a social enterprise that works hand in hand with community to help keep folks safe. First, though, let's set the scene for this show. All right, so picture a northern community. That northern community is Nain, and this is me walking with my microphone pointed at my boots back in January on a cold, sunny day. The sea ice when I was there, late January, it was just kind of setting in late. And I was on my way back to the OK Radio Society, the old Halahatigiit Radio Society, where I was doing some work with the amazing staff there, right? Myself and some CBCers, Rifa Rashid, Amy Joy, Zach Gowdy, we're all together. While in town, though, I also spoke with some folks about sea ice and climate change. So here's a local dad. I'm going to play a couple of voices, and then I've got a guest in studio and one on the phone in Nain. So we're going to kind of dance our way through some voices of folks I spoke to back in January, and also here in the studio. So here's some tape, a section of an interview with local dad Jake Kaleo, who just finished some schooling, by the way, and I think Jake might be listening today. So Jake, congrats on that. Thanks for that chat back in the winter. And folks, take a listen to Jake talking about wooding, fishing, and sea ice.
What was it like growing up with ice and sea ice in Nain? Like, what was the life like around when you were going out on the ice as a kid?
It came really early and it stayed a long time, so a lot of our time was spent on the ice or in the snow. So usually ice would form around November maybe, and we'll usually get our first dump of snow before Halloween, and usually at Halloween you'll ride around on snowmobiles collecting candy, if you had one, and I would be able to ride on the ice until June. My birthday is in June, and for my 15th or 14th birthday, I got a snowmobile for my birthday, and I was able to go out onto the ice and drive around on the ice with no troubles or fear.
How many years ago was that?
Well, about 20 years ago, roughly. Yeah.
When did you notice things changing?
In the last, about 5-6 years now, it seems like it's becoming less. Like the ice seems to be coming later, and it seems like it's melting faster. I know in the last couple of years I've been keeping real close eye on it because I spend a lot of time going wooding and fishing and everything. And I know last year the ice never formed until, I know our ferry never stopped. Our ferry comes when the ice is open, and the ferry didn't stop last year till around almost Christmas. And this year it was almost January by the time we got ice. I mean, we still don't really have ice. It's just starting to freeze now.
What does that mean for the way of life in Nain for folks for Inuk in this community?
For us, we rely on the ice for a lot of things. Like we get all our wood from a place we call there's a lot of places everybody goes to get their own wood, but we got to travel on the ice to get to our wood. And we need this wood to keep our homes warm. Also, we use it to go to our fishing spots and our hunting spots. And I don't know, I'm starting to wonder now, is it better to sell my snow machine to get a boat? It's getting worse and worse every year.
A chat of mine with Jake Kaleo back in late January in Nain. Now, here's a colleague of mine, newsreader Gordon Obed with the Halahatigiit Society. Gordon, I was reading some news with him, had a great time, and afterwards we were chatting about years past, right, around the lead up to Christmas. So listen to Mr. Obed here.
Myself personally, the impact is pretty I don't know what the proper word is. When you try to think about it, or when you start to think about it, it starts to overwhelm you. Like you're not able to do when you used to go, when you were used to going on the sea ice when it was over in the earlier days, like before Christmas, a week at least before Christmas, and not being able to today, it's kind of, and like I said, having to go inland to the ponds and going further and harder to find trees, it's kind of, I suppose the word is kind of overwhelming. Like I said earlier, I think pretty well most of us who were used to, before this climate change issue became an issue, I guess, we were more used to, let's say the sea ice froze over a week before Christmas Eve, and we were able to go out on sea ice and not able to nowadays. But go inland and going further and harder to find trees, it's just the main point I wanted to make, because that's climate change to me. That's climate change, and not being able to go out on the sea ice nowadays, like a week before Christmas, that's climate change to me.
Gordon Obed, thank you so much for this.
You're welcome, Adam.
All right, Gordon Obed there with the Holwell Radio Society, and hi folks, if you're listening to today's show, Gordon, good luck reading the news this afternoon. Joining me in the studio, we've got Carolann Harding, CEO of SmartICE, on the line from Nain. Rex Holwell, manager of Nunatsiavut Operation SmartICE. Hi folks.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Adam. Hi, Rex.
Hello.
Rex, so I was in Nain. You weren't there, actually. It's funny because your office is next door to where I was at, but you were up doing work for SmartICE when I was in town the winter. Just wondering if you could start us off by helping to describe the sea ice season for this year and how it's compared to other years.
So the sea ice this year, as you mentioned before, we actually had to reschedule training here in Nunatsiavut because the ice was taking longer to come in. I left here Nain to go to Calumet on January 15th, and as of when I left that day, we still had no sea ice in the harbor. But thankfully, that same day when I left, it got bitterly cold to the point where when I came back from Iqaluit that I was gone for a couple of weeks. So by the time I came back, and it was still nice and cold. Now, when I say nice and cold, I mean like minus 20 minimum with the wind chill, and colder in the night. So when I came back, it was that temperature for the duration I was gone. So when I came back to Nain, close towards the end of January, we had a good, not a beginning layer of ice, but the ice was getting good and soon to be safe enough to travel on when I came back from Iqaluit towards the end of January.
Yeah, because I think we just missed each other because I got delayed trying to get out. I think you got delayed trying to get back in. And when I was there, like you said, like just about the forming of the sea ice, and then just around that time, you're seeing some folks out in Skidoo coming in through like the harbor area into Nain Harbor. Like that part they said was kind of safe. Further out, still big question mark. So that's where we're at. What's it like now as the season is, as we look towards the end of the season? What's the situation there now with sea ice?
Right now, it's looking everywhere. We can travel pretty much everywhere on the sea ice except for the known areas that we call rattles. It's the areas that we know that year-round they stay open because of the currents. So the rattles are still always going to be there. They are still bigger than what they should be, than what they have been in the previous years. And we've seen some rattles in areas that are opening, that are being year-round rattles instead of normally in the spring when the ice would melt. We would get these spring rattles, but now we're seeing with the thinner ice, we're seeing the spring rattles turning to be more full-time rattles. But now, right now, it's about depending on where you go, it's about 2 feet, 2.5 feet in some areas where we've been going with the smart coming. So the ice is nice and thick now, and now we're getting into, the -10, -5. So it won't be changing a whole lot. But then now when it starts warming up, we've had a bit of snow. So that adds to a bit of the thickness. But the sea ice out there isn't as thick again as it used to be. So like I mentioned, we've done the Smart Comedy runs, and my crew is actually out there doing one today. But again, what we're seeing, 2.5 feet thickness seems pretty thick. But, back when I can remember when I first started SmartICE doing the Smart Comedy runs, I was seeing 3 feet in excess of 4 feet in some spots, and we're not seeing that anymore.
Huh. Yeah, that's an easy change to see. Carolann Harding. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming in. I'm so happy to have Rex Online yourself here. So let's broaden out the description for folks. I think a lot of people know what SmartICE is, but just give us the full kind of description of who you folks are and what you're doing.
Yeah, so thanks for asking that. SmartICE is a social enterprise. We have a suite of climate change adaptation tools that we provide to communities for decision making. And with the data from these tools, whether it be the Smart Cometic, the Smart Buoy, and then we have a mapping program as well, all of this data can then be used combined with traditional and local knowledge, the weather, experience on the ice as a tool in their toolbox to be able to make more informed decisions about traveling on the ice.
We're talking Nunatsiavut. I'm speaking specifically, Rex is in Nain. I'm talking about my trip to Nain. A whole lot more to the north than Nain. Nain's fantastic, but it's a big area. How much of the area are you working in?
So we predominantly work in Inuit Nunnatsiavut, which is the 4 land claim areas of Nunatsiavut, which is where Rex is. We've just started this year into Nunavik, which is in northern Quebec, Nunavut, which most people would recognize for sure, and then the Nunatsiavut settlement region, which is in the western part of the Arctic. And this year we've also done work in the Yukon and Northwest Territories. So we've broadened, and we're now in 35 plus communities across Canada's north. All Indigenous communities, and it's very exciting, and we see similarities in communities, but then we also see the most beautiful differences as well. And Rex gets to travel to some of these communities, which is wonderful, and I've been up north too, and it is quite beautiful.
I earlier in the winter, again, this one by phone, I spoke with Andrew Ariak, who's been with you for 10 years, I think?
Yeah, so Andrew started off with Trevor, Dr. Bell, Trevor Bell, when he was doing this as a university research project. And so Andrew was helping Trevor in community of Pond Inlet, Mittamatalik at that time. So when the social enterprise was started in 2017, then in 2018, Andrew came on as an employee at the social enterprise as it's known today.
All right, so this is a conversation with Andrew that I had earlier back in the winter, I should say, and phone line's not always great when you're talking, so I cut out the gaps. So this is all kind of condensed so that people can get a good listen to it. Nate, you want to roll that tape?
The ice, our sea ice usually forms mid and late November for our area, and this year it started to form mid or the start of December or mid-December. It was a strange event for us to have a late start of the ice season, but we are trying our best to adapt like we always been and trying to pass that our knowledge and what the conditions are like currently with our local community.
You've been with SmartICE since the beginning, pretty much. What are your thoughts on the work that's been done by SmartICE and its importance in communities across the north?
Yes, I started with SmartICE since it started maybe about 10 years ago, and local people noticed what I was doing regarding research and regarding monitoring the ice conditions. And it started off as a pilot project with 2 communities, and now we have over 36 communities across Inuit Nunavut region, and still growing. Reason why is that weather conditions are different, and some ice conditions are becoming unpredictable to travel on. And sea ice is not only melting from the top, from the warm sun, but also eating away from the bottom of the ice due to warm currents. And we are not able to see that visually with our eyes, but we are able to monitor it with our equipment.
What does it mean for you to be part of this work, for you personally, to be part of this work of monitoring and helping out when it comes to combining traditional knowledge with scientific methods for monitoring sea ice and for helping keep folks safe?
I feel very happy and glad about it. I love what I do, providing sea ice information for our local community, because sea ice is a part of our identity. It's part of who we are. We travel on it to go to our hunting grounds, camping grounds, and even to travel to another community. So the sea ice is a part of us.
Conversation here with SmartICE's Andrew Ariak back in the winter. How many staff do you have now?
So we have about 40 core staff, and then in the ice season, we could have up to another 75 seasonal staff across the entire of the community realm.
Right. And Rex, how often are you doing training? And can you just speak a little bit to some of the training that's been going on through the course of the winter?
Training really depends, because like Carolann mentioned, we train in 30-plus communities. We actually have to plan where we're training before the communities. So I'm responsible for the 5 communities in Nunatsiavut and Nunatsiavut as well. But there's only a limited number of us trainers, so I get to travel to many places if I want. If I really wanted to, I could travel for the whole ice season and train in each community, but I enjoy my home time, so I have I make that even. But when we travel to the communities to train, usually we will put a post out in the communities looking for operators, and we need operators who are from the community, who have local ice knowledge, who have some technical literacy, so because we have to teach them on how to submit reports and how to use equipment. So we need people who are knowledgeable of being on the land, but also who are tech literate, so they can do these things for us. So we'll usually travel to a community, and it depends if it's a new community that we've never been to and we have to assemble and test equipment, or if we've been there many years in a row and it's just a refresher training. It really depends, but a lot of the main training is, number one, that we teach them on how to use our equipment, how to troubleshoot the equipment, how to maintain the equipment, but we'll also give them some safety training. We have some policies within the SmartICE to keep our employees safe. So, we'll provide them with some OH&S training and some first aid training, because, they may be out on the ice and something may happen. So to protect them, we always have them go out in pairs and we give them first aid training. And, once the training is done, it's probably only 2 days of in-house training, but then the rest of the training is actually out on the sea ice with the operators, teaching them how to use equipment. And we'll go out with the equipment, and sometimes as trainers we'll go out and we'll fiddle with the equipment to make it not work. Real situations
That's
that they may encounter when they're out on the land. So we'll fiddle with it and we'll say, "Oh, this is not working," and the most people that we have are really quick learners, very mechanically skilled. So, once we show them a couple of times, they'll jump on it really quickly. And it's not overly technical stuff. It's, if they could access Facebook on their phone or play solitaire on their phone, they're going to be good operators. But again, the main thing is that we need some people who are knowledgeable in that area, and they have a bit of tech. And once they get out, they realize what they're doing and how important it is. And then in some communities, after we do the training, we'll actually invite the community to come in and we'll talk to the community members. And sometimes, if the operators want to, we'll have them explain what they've done with SmartICE, the training they did, will have the equipment there so they can show the people in the meetings, this is what we were trained on, this is what it does, and this is how we'll get the data out to you. So it's a whole, it's a bit of technical skills, it's a bit of on-the-land knowledge, it's a bit of public speaking, it's a bit of public relations. So the training is, it's a lot of things that we actually ask our operators to do, and sometimes we'll get really good operators in these training sessions, and if they do really well, they could turn into partial full-time employment.
Right. And for the training that's been happening, what is the data what is the exact data that they're getting? I mean, it's sea ice thickness, or what is it?
Yeah, so mainly, again, we'll go out and train them to use a smart cometic, and that's the sensor that we tow behind that's lashed down onto a cometic. And as they travel along the sea ice, it'll measure the ice thickness, and they can go 20 minutes out in the harbor, or they can travel all day out on the sea ice. When they get back, the data gets uploaded to a separate app that we have to get out to the people. Once the data is collected, it doesn't make any good to be sit there. So this is where we ask our operators, once they collect the data, is to post up on their local bulletin boards, or some communities where a lot of people don't have internet or Facebook or whatever. We'll actually ask the operators, and with partnership with local HTAs, hunter and trappers organizations or associations, we'll actually print off a few of these maps of where these people went, and they'll put them in the the local northern stores or the co-op stores or the post office, where the places where people will frequent. If they don't at least see it online, they could go to the local store, and when they go to buy their supplies before they go hunting, they can see this pretty printout on their bulletin board and see it there.
What's the community, when you do these presentations, what's the community response been like? When folks are seeing others who have been trained in the community and are like, okay, here's what we learned, here's what we're finding out, and here's why this kind of matters, which everyone obviously understands. But then to say this is what we're learning with the elder knowledge, indigenous knowledge, all coupled together, how are folks reacting?
In a couple of these training sessions that I've done up in a few of these communities, we've actually had elders come to these meetings, and they were very well respected elders, and they knew only Inuktitut, so I would ask our operators, could you be our translator, and they said they would. So, or even in one community that comes to mind, I started off just giving the general overview of what we did, and then when I was doing the course, a couple of the local guys stood out really well. They understood the technology really well. They took to it. They were the top of their class. And then really, when it came to the meeting with that elder there, I started off talking a bit, but then I realized it's not about me. So then I asked the two guys who were the leaders of the class to basically take over and to tell the elders that were there what they did, what I trained them in, and then the equipment. And then they took the equipment, they showed their elder, they had the elder play around with it and explain what they did, what the technology does. And then at the end of the meeting, the elder looked at me and he said, thank you for coming to our community to teach our guys to help keep us safe, and that's the feedback that we want. That's the feedback that we need. For elders to see the importance of our technology to be useful in their communities, but to also for us to come to their community to train their community members to help keep the people in their community safe. They see the importance of that as well, and from a technological side, they'll see the importance of it, but they also stress to us, thank you for coming to our community and train our local people to help keep us safe, because those elders, they are seeing the difference in climate change, and they see the need for technology such as what we provide with SmartICE.
Thanks, Rex. You're listening to Rex Holwell there, manager of Nunatsiavut operations with SmartICE, on the line from Nain. Today's show, we're talking about the sea ice season in the north, why it matters, the changes that have happened with climate change, what that means for communities, and folks who are trying to help work with communities hand in hand to keep folks safe on that vast, essentially highway system of sea ice in the north that is crucial to the way of life, to the day-to-day in northern communities. Here with me in studio, we've got Carolann Harding, CEO of SmartICE. Yeah, there must be an awful lot of talking about planning and doing things right in your world, because everything that Rex, and for Rex, everything you're saying, right, everything I'm hearing, it sounds very thoughtful, purposeful, and intentional.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And informed and engaged. So we don't, sit at the head office and just make up stuff. We're engaging with community all the time. We're listening. We're going to places and very intentionally making sure that we're listening to folks and asking questions. And that's a really important part of that. The community engagement piece is critical, and we wouldn't do it without community engagement. Following on what Rex had said, and he wrapped up the training quite lovely, but there's also that social impact side, which I knew that you were curious about with the social enterprise piece of it. And it's not just teaching them how to use the equipment. And as Rex had said, they're getting up in front of people, they're describing things, the language of electronics and technology now is now into their brain. They're learning about digital literacy. We're connecting elder knowledge with the technical savvy youth. And we're really creating a beautiful pipeline of interested and engaged and trained people to be part of that competitive employment within the communities. So that's the part of the social enterprise impacts that we deliver back to the community. Everybody we train will not come to work for us, but they will all come out with a first aid certificate, for example. So if they're looking for a job somewhere else, they've already got a baseline of occupational health and safety. They've got their first aid certificate. They know how to use a computer, and people now have a resume. And, Rex's door is always open in Nain for the folks that we train up there to actually make our buoys. And Rex runs a program up there called the Employment Readiness Training Technology Development Program. And Rex is really, really proud of that program, and so are we. And we really are helping people, maneuver through life and learn new things, and hopefully give them tools that they can take to other places. So that's the kind of social impact of the social enterprise side of things as well, which is really an interesting piece that some people know about us and other people don't necessarily know about us, but we are a not-for-profit but operate as a social enterprise business model.
So Rex, when you're done with training folks, right, you do some of this training, then time goes by. What's it like seeing folks after they've been trained, or seeing them perhaps move on to other positions within the community, or get jobs, or just to have some more confidence around certain aspects of what can be professional life?
That's two-sided. It's great for me to go to a community and to train people, and then they become great employees for SmartICE, and that's what we want. And if they take the training that we've given them, and then they take it and then they move on, well, number one, that's not good for SmartICE, but number two, it's good for them. And how can we say that we're doing something wrong if somebody that we trained who was a great operator, but then because of the skills that we taught them, if they wanted to be the reference for them to apply further on and to better themselves, how could I feel bad for that? I'm there to teach them how to work, how to be a model employee or what have you, and to get the skill to work for SmartICE. And if they take that skill and move on, all the better. It's all the better for us as a knowing. Somebody that we help in a community that they work for SmartICE and then they use it as a stepping stone to work elsewhere full time or permanent. That's positive that we want.
I've got two other pieces of tape that I'm going to go to now. The first is Mr. Ron Webb, right? So Ron's done search and rescue work. He knows all about the sea ice, being out on the land. So he stopped by for a little chat when I was in Nain. And we'll play Ron first, and then I'll set up the other person.
Well, it's scary. I guess the only way to explain it, and we try and keep on top of it, but it's hard because it is unpredictable. And every year it's getting later freeze up, and the way it forms is different, and we think the water is warming up, so there's things going on that we see that's different, and holes where there never used to be holes before in the ice. So got to keep on top of that to be safe and watch it good. So it's tough. Years ago, we didn't have to worry about that so much. We're worried about bad ice and all that, but not as much as now. We really got to keep on top of it because it's getting to the point of where now it's more dangerous every year and unpredictable.
What do you? A lot of times with climate conversations, people talk about having to adapt and adaptability. What do you think about the adaptability of folks here and just like the strength of the community to meet challenges as they come?
Well, I guess we've always had to adapt to things, but now I think it's a safety issue for us, and we're trying, but it's tough. It's really tough. It's tough mentally too. You know, you're stuck in town a lot longer than we usually are, and it doesn't go well with us. But the thing is, we can't control the weather, and as long as we have open water, there's going to be changes in the weather. Get mild really quick, and be different changes. Not like years ago, it would freeze up early December and then get cold, and then you got the ice way off land. That doesn't happen anymore now these years. The water's really close, so as soon as you get an onshore wind, temperatures go up. And that's a big impact on ice freezing. Everyone got their own way of checking the ice, and I guess my way has always been watching it form too. And then you get a good idea of how to get across the run as quick as you can, and just sharing information. You know, it's a big thing here, because being on the search and rescue team too, it's good to share information because of each direction is a little bit different. So it's tough though. It's what you think is going to happen don't happen, and you know, so it makes it really unsafe in places. You got to keep your eyes open, and there's a lot of tools, I guess, now that you use that's new that helps a little in its own way.
My conversation with Ron Webb there back late January in Nain. Before I get to the next piece of tape, Ron there is talking about the sharing of information, right? So Carolann, wondering, can you just elaborate a bit more on, and we're hearing from, and Rex, and you two jump in, feel free to jump in. We've talked about training, right? And we've talked about how you get information. We've talked about presentations to the public, posting for folks to see in community to kind of understand what the latest is. So let's kind of perhaps broaden that picture a little bit more for how information is getting out and even read for safety in communities.
Yeah, it's really an interesting piece. It's like a puzzle, putting it all together in different formats. Social media is still very, very large within the community, and posting on Facebook is an excellent tool to be able to actually put out images of maps. Rex, for example, every week will put out maps of where he's been, open rattles. Rex has indicated that this year there's been some rattles that he's never seen in 7 or 8 years. Rex, you can comment on that. So Facebook is still really a prime opportunity. But as Rex mentioned, printing off, putting it in places in town. I never go to community without push pins in my pocket or a Scotch tape. And so those simple tools of push pins and Scotch tape and having a printer nearby is really, really important, because you need to put these things where people are.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like the maps on the bulletin boards, and you go to the stores, and you go to the health center, and anywhere you think people are going to come and go throughout the day. Rex's can be found on OK Radio, right, which is a really great tool. And Rex is, he sounds great on the radio, and it's really great to have them next door to us in that for Nain. The other piece that I want to talk about, though, is about terminology.
Yeah.
And in Nain, we've done some really great work with the Community Management Committee there, and we've created a terminology booklet. And the booklet are pictures of different types of formation of snow and ice with the Inuktitut and then the English titles. And it's really about teaching the younger folks in the community about what to look for. And if you see ice looking like this is what it means, and this is probably how it was formed, and these are the hazards. So we've done a terminology booklet in Nain, and we've delivered it to everybody in the schools. So every child in school got one of these booklets to take home for their family to look at and digest and learn, and then think about what they see on the ice as well. So we're trying to come at it in a whole bunch of different ways. Renee is one of our what we call mappers within the community, and Rex had Renee come in as a participant in the Employment Readiness Program maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And now she's actually working with us, and she's creating travel safety maps for her region based on Earth observation from satellite imagery, and then layering it with Indigenous and local knowledge. And so she is a resource within that community. And we've got like a 3-year program where she's being, I think she's finishing year 1 now, and then she will go on to year 2 and 3. And then ideally then the other Inuit participants will then teach the other Inuit participants as the years go on. So there's a variety of methods, and you can't just have one. You need to really have that pocketbook of tools, and to be able to have colors so people, if they're not reading English, and have it translated into both languages. And so that's the type of thing that we try to put a lot of detail around so it's accessible to everybody.
All those different communities, including work now being done in Natwashish as well. Yeah,
so Rex trained the Guardians in Natwashish last year, and they're a super group of individuals, and Rex can probably talk about that now. They're super, and they're really just took to the equipment just beautifully. Rex, do you want to talk about the relationship in your training in Natwashish?
Yes, so the Guardians, like Carolann mentioned, I went to deliver training to them last year, and I think I trained the 8 Guardians that were there, and they really took to the technology. And where Natwashish is, it's not quite inland, but they have quite a few islands and shallow bays next to them. So they saw the need for the technology for Natwashish, for the Smart Boy and the Smart Company. And people from Natwashish travel north here to Nain, and they travel down to Hopedale, and they travel inland. So the Guardians are, and I followed the Guardians. I have a few of the guys on Facebook now, so I see them. They're out doing Smart Communic runs. They out deploying the Smart Boys. So the Guardians are really active in their community, because they see the importance of monitoring the ice for the people in Natwashish.
Excellent. I'm wondering, I mentioned earlier when we're talking about the sea ice situation, right, and how it's like this highway for Northern Highway system. What can you explain, Rex, for folks, the difference between fine, it's a highway system, but why is it so crucial for the North compared to if you're trying to travel inland through the winter over Skidoo?
Adam, I've said it many times, and Carolann has said it already. The highway, the ice really is our highway. If you can imagine you guys on the Avalon Peninsula, if the road, the TCH going up to Whitburn, if you were cut off at the Isthmus, you can't go anywhere. And really that's the effect that the ice has on us. If the ice isn't there, we can't. We can travel inland, when you're talking to Gordon earlier on, he's talking about inland. We can go inland, but once the highway is there, once our sea ice is there, the highway, we can travel in 360 degrees. We can go to new grounds that were hunted. We can go to our fishing spots, that may not be accessible if the sea ice isn't there. A lot of people have cabins, so, the freedom of the sea ice to go there, to go out to your cabin for the weekend, for your mental health. And Ron said in his talk with you, you can see people's mental health, or you can see people starting to get cabin fever when the sea ice is there, but it's not safe enough to travel either in the fall or in the spring. You can tell in the community that people are just itching to get out on the sea ice for the freedom to be able to go hunt or to be able to go get wood. It just gives us the freedom to go everywhere 360 degrees around Nain. And, the other side is, from Nain, we can travel to the other communities on the sea ice. We can go right from Nain all the way to Postville. And what that does, it just, for me to travel for here to Natchitoches on a plane is probably going to be in excess of about $400 just one way. But the snowmobile trail from here to Natchitoches that SmartICE takes after, by the way, I can probably do that in about 4 hours on a snowmobile, and that's going to be less than $50 than a tank of gas. So the cost of living is going to go down because we can travel between communities. You can travel more easier between communities. You can travel, you can go shopping to different communities if you have to. Some of the smaller communities on the coast, they actually travel to the other communities to go shopping because they may have more stores or more variety. And sometimes people will buy snowmobiles from Goose Bay, and some people can climb up on planes, but people will they will just jump on their snowmobile that they bought in Goose Bay, and they'll just drive it all the way up to Nain. So instead of paying $3,000 to ship that up, it'll probably take them a day and a half or a day. But I mean, it'll be $500. So the cost of the sea ice being there, it just reduces the cost of living for everybody.
And then you add food into that, hey, Rex, so the access to protein sources. So whether you're fishing, Rex went out partridge hunting this past weekend, and the cost of food is quite high in these northern communities, and fresh country food is a beautiful thing. And so people have access to country food if they are able to get out. And so that's a very, very important thing to the communities.
For physical and mental health.
Yeah.
The totality. We've had a bunch of voices on, and they've been skewing older. So let's go a little younger now. One of the folks I spoke with, a 16-year-old, Tegan Michelin. We were stopped into school. Tegan was there, and I asked Tegan about climate change and sea ice. So let's give that a listen.
We're in the Jez Haven Memorial School, 4 to 12.
Excellent. Some of the interviews I've been doing when I'm here have been about sea ice and climate change. I'm just wondering, a student like yourself, when you think about climate change, what do you think about living in Nain?
I think about poor ice, warm temperatures, like bad times to hunt normally, because normally around this time people would be on the ice and hunting and going to the cabins and stuff, but people are not. They're not doing that this year, I don't think.
When you can't do this type of stuff, what does it mean?
I think it's like losing culture, and like people go off and like do these things for their mental health to like make it better, but if they can't do it, then their mental health will deteriorate. And I think that's like a big effect on it, if that's what you asked.
And what about adapting? Like, what types of things do you ever talk about, either how to stay safe around sea ice, or just what it means to adapt for the community with the reality of climate change?
We did a course in grade 10 about safety on ice and stuff, and I learned a couple things from that. What was the other question?
And just what do you think about the future for Nain, for the North Coast, for anyone who's Inuk on the coast, and what it means for them if the climate is changing? What do you think it means for the future?
If it's going to be like this in the future, then I don't think people are going to like it well, and I don't think they're going to like stay longer. They'll probably like move up north more, because again, like hunting's a really big part here, and I think they won't like it, and they'll be like sad and stuff, if that makes sense.
No, it makes great sense. And it does make great sense. Tegan, thanks for that interview. So many of the themes we're talking about in the show, right? So 16-year-old Tegan Michelin there. I think it was just as school was letting out. We're having the chat in Nain, late January. Ice had just come in. Carolann, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's about linking, all generations, really. But what a 16-year-old is experiencing now is completely different than what like Rex experienced and Rex's parents experienced, and what I even experienced back in, I reflect back to one of the first times I went to Nain. Rex, this is when we opened the Northern Production Center, and I flew in on May 2019, and I mean, there were skidoos abandoned on the ice, and you could not go out on the ice at that time, but you listen to the stories of what people are saying. I think one of the stories that was recounted to me at an event, not here in Newfoundland, but it really hit home to me, was this gentleman said to me, he said, "I wish you were in our community," meaning SmartICE technology. And I said, well, maybe we will be in the future. And he said, "We're not that hungry yet." He said, "My nephew is out on the ice and I'm really, really worried." But he said, "We don't have to go out for another couple of weeks." He said, "We're not that hungry yet." But he said he's youth and he's not necessarily listening to me as his uncle. And he said, "I'm really, really worried about him." So he said people are taking chances, and with that unpredictability that's happening that Rex had talked about and the other voices that we heard, it's really alive. And I think you need to be in community and experience it and fly over it and look at it and wonder, about, wow, these changes are significant. So I'm glad that the youth are thinking about it because that's the future. And they have the opportunity now to learn the stories, learn from the stories, and learn the traditional and local knowledge from the elders. Unless you're in the north, you just don't. I don't think you understand it.
No, change for me, right? Like going up, being in Nain, talking to folks, seeing it. The impact has been big to actually understand.
Yeah, one of our employees sent a picture yesterday on Facebook, and that was Adrian Rex, and he posted a picture. He's in Kugluktuk, and he's got shorts on and just a long sleeve T-shirt on the ice, and this is midwinter for these folks. Yeah. And he's a little silly, but he's got shorts on and a long shirt. And then Rex has also posted on Facebook this winter going, "I can't believe it's raining." And remember that, Rex, your sled was filling up with rain. And you don't get rain, and you shouldn't be getting rain. But it's that unpredictability that's really, I think, is an opportunity for folks. It's certainly an opportunity for SmartICE, and we're always trying to figure out new tools in our toolbox, whether we're adding drones and different types of technology. So we're always trying to think ahead. And again, back to that community engagement and listening to the communities.
Rex, yourself, any thoughts either from what Tegan was saying or what Carolann's saying?
I mean, Tegan made a great point. For a young person such as herself to be seeing climate change in her short span that she's been around, certainly to me drives home the fact that even though that I've seen it in my span, and I know her parents, so I mean they've experienced the same as me. But I mean, for her to see how much of an impact it's having on her and her family, and her being conscious that it plays a huge thing on people's mental well-being, just shows, I think, the importance that we have to involve young people. The technologies that we have, the maps that we put out, it's easily accessible and it's good to read. And it's good to show young people, because some young people, don't get the ability or the option to go hunting or to learn from, their fathers or their uncles or their grandfathers when they go out on the land. So for us to put data in front of them, maybe they have their phone in front of us. So if they know that we post that, that we went up a certain area with a smart communic, and then they know they're heading that direction tomorrow or in a few days, they can at least check through their phone to not have their traditional knowledge taught to them, but at least they can take that and use it as a tool. It's not meant to replace traditional knowledge. None of the stuff that we do with SmartICE is meant to replace traditional knowledge. But like what Carolann mentioned way back in the beginning, it's data that they can take, much they do before they go hunting or fishing. They check the weather the day before. They check over their snowmobile. They take their axe just in case. They can at least check the SmartICE data that they know that we've done, and to use it to make more informed decisions while traveling on sea ice. For the young people to realize they have this technology at their fingers to help keep them safe. That's what we want to do. We want to keep them safe.
I've got one more piece of tape to play. about a minute and 40 seconds. It's with the mayor or the Angyukuk, Julius Dicker, when I was in Nain. So I stopped in at the offices there, and we talked about the future, right? We talked about looking ahead, and when you're in Mr. Dicker's position, and for folks who are the leaders in communities like Nain, and you're thinking about climate change in the future, there's a lot to consider. There's a lot to talk about, but here's just a couple of his thoughts that I've condensed together. Take a listen.
For the future of the community as Angyukuk, you had to adjust, okay? You had to adjust now. You had to look forward to the fact that it's not going to be the same conditions every year. It's hard to do right now because the government of Newfoundland and Labrador in their wisdom has suggested that there may be a road, but it's not maybe, it's when. It's my opinion, it's my own opinion, but I think that it's time now that the government make changes to the North Coast. Right now, the first place to go to would be Rigolette, McCowick, and Portsville. Get that particular part of area done, I suppose. In the meantime, look at Hopedale and Davis Inlet and Nain. Look at them further down the road, but at the same time, make sure that the other three are put ahead first. You can't do it all one time. We're at a stage where the people that's talking about it now is talking about it, but there's nothing actually being done yet.
Angyukuk Joe Dicker there in Nain. The other parts we talked about, so he mentioned the possibility of a road and looking at that. We also talked about the plans to try to expand and improve the airport there for 2030, and the conversation went on for a little bit of just thinking about the future for the North. So I'll leave that with you folks as you listen, because there's a lot to think about. But this is just where some of the folks in Nain, what they're thinking about when it comes to sea ice and the future. Only a couple of minutes left on the show. Looking towards the future, Carolann Harding, Rex Holwell, for yourselves or with SmartICE, what are you looking at? Where are things going?
We've expanded greatly over the last couple of years, and what I would like to see in the next couple of years is really expanding deep within those communities. So, modest growth for the organization across the country, but really digging deep into the communities and training lots of people, creating employment, finding those northern leaders that will be the future of SmartICE right across the country.
Rex, what about yourself? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Carolann. We want to continue on what we're doing, SmartICE, but also some of the stuff that we're doing, that we're piloting, that we're thinking of. I can really see SmartICE expanding on to some of the things that we're piloting right now in a couple of communities, to expanding to many of our communities across the north. And with that, it comes with the training of operators, teaching them new skills. And if they take those skills and stay with SmartICE, great. But if they take them skills and move on, that's fine. We're enabling resiliency in the communities. We're teaching them, we're empowering them. And that's really what we want to do with SmartICE, be it either with SmartICE to help keep community members safe, or them to move on to better and bigger things to help their community, then so be it.
All right. Well, and Rex, so now once you're off the phone with me, what are you doing for the rest of your day?
So the guy, my crew are actually out doing a smart communic run now. So I'm just going to be doing some other things to ensure for tomorrow they have the technology ready to go and the ability to travel on the sea ice again tomorrow to continue what we're doing here in Nain.
Excellent. And Carolann, what about yourself? What's the next week or couple ones looking like for you and all the work you do?
Oh my goodness. We're looking forward to the end of the ice season. And in June, we have a retreat where we bring all staff together. And then that's when we actually plan for the entire next ice season. So we're already thinking ahead to next year about, how can we do things different? What can we do things better? Engagement from communities, best practices. And so we're always thinking ahead. And if you don't plan, as they say, plan, you plan to fail. So that's what we're already started thinking about, is when we all get together at the end of June. And the ice season should be wrapped up across Canada by the end of June, because some of the ice goes right on till June, early July, depending on where you are in the geography. But yeah, so it's always learning. We're a learning organization, and we learn every day, and we're always trying to make things better.
Carolann Harding, Rex Holwell, thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, folks, that is it for another show. Looking ahead to tomorrow, it's been 7 years in the making, but Nick Sexton's long-awaited film Skeet is about to begin its national tour, starting with his hometown here in St. John's. We're going to talk to folks with Skeet tomorrow, all about that movie tomorrow on the show. Don't miss it.